Visual Concepts 2K series has become a
NBA
forgettable
2K
jumble of
review.
rehashed ideas and modes, with its focus on online features and microtransactions. But NBA 2K25 feels different, like a grizzled league veteran and the definition of a perennial starter. There are still gaps in its game, but solid fundamentals
Shut up. This weak ass game.
and a willingness to adapt help make it a reliable part of any rotation. Or, in this case, a novel and innovative entry that can at least win new fans and bring back old heads alike.
And what a matchup we have
Old
here in the
heads.
front court, Greg.
Yeah, each of these teams are anchored by their big men. I think it's going to be physical and highly intensified.
Make no mistake, you still can't teach a long-running basketball sim new tricks,
Innovative.
and 2K25 remains very recognizable. But that doesn't mean you can
I just want to know what things he has said or he thinks is like innovative. Like when he starts nailing off the features and shit. Cause right now I'm literally doing what I did last year. Like if I showed a fucking screenshot of the last 3 2Ks and I showed them what I was doing right now, unless they really play 2K like that where they would know the UI was different, they would not fucking know. Like they'd be like, oh, okay, so it looks exactly the same as before. So I want to see, are they actually innovative in
can't
any way that
polish it
counts?
until it becomes as smooth as Steph Curry's jumper.
Here's Curry with the three. It's good.
This is where the return of Pro Play technology shines. Although initially introduced in 2K24, this year's iteration is much better at producing lifelike player animations and motions. So Paul George's fluid jump shot and Jason
I will
Tatum's
say,
upper body heat
this is fucking actually true. But I will also say that it's annoying. So basically in the last 2K, there's a lot of times I would shoot and then last second they would just fucking completely alter my shot. Now it's too strong. I'll fucking guard someone that's releasing their fucking 3 and there's no contest at all. And I'm like, okay, so what's the fucking point? So I imagine this year if you don't have really good high defense, you're not gonna stop 3s ever, which is just stupid. If someone's right in front of my face, there should be a contest. It just shouldn't make it so, oh, there's no chance I can make this shot now. I'm guarded. That's just fucking dumb.
look like the actual thing. Visual Concepts
Oh
edition
my-
of go-to moves. only
What?
heat.
This Jason Tatum slander in here?
So Paul George's fluid jump shot and Jason Tatum's upper body heave look like the actual thing.
That's sick. That is fucking sick. No way Jason Tatum caught a stray from an IGN reviewer. That's the hey. Cook up.
Visual Concepts edition of go-to moves only emphasizes the focus on realistic player
Actually, I want to look. What did the comments say? Anything? Okay. All it is IGN stuff inside.
With it, you can recreate your favorite player's iconic signature move, like Nikola Jokic's one-legged sidestep jumper or Donovan Mitchell's bump and step back shot,
And Cleveland again with the bucket.
both of which I loved using and abusing whenever I got the chance. My only issue with go-to moves is the lack of variety. I mean, after all, every single NBA player's bag is deep, and a one-dribble pull-up fadeaway should never replace Joel Embiid's real-life arsenal of dream shakes and shimmy fakes.
Philadelphia also had some good depth, and that really helped.
Aside from go-to moves, another interesting new addition is rhythm shooting, a completely different and more complex way of scoring middies and threes. To be honest, I initially found it pointless, but
Wait, move and hold down, then move, hold up, match speed, jump shot. That's interesting.
after trying both it and the classic shooting method with different jump shot animations, I started preferring rhythm shooting more. Not just because it's more forgiving toward imperfect releases, but also because you can seamlessly transition into dribble moves after faking a shot.
Might try that out.
Of course, with revamped animations comes a new shot meter, which was admittedly frustrating to get used to.
You can't settle for bad shots.
I mean, can you blame me for getting angry after bricking 3 open shots in a row. Clearly, it was the shot meter's fault, and definitely not a skill issue. But even though I was dangerously close to hurling both hurtful insults and a controller at my TV, cooler heads prevailed, and I eventually learned about the new shot timing profiles feature that at least slightly redeems the new meter. By default, NBA 2K25's shot timing profile is set to difficulty based, meaning your current difficulty settings heavily influences your jump shot timings. Thankfully, this isn't your only choice, and there are 4 other settings you can try out. But shot timing profiles can only do so much to mask that this year's arrow shot meter is still difficult to time. If only I could use last year's easier to master classic bar design instead.
Tried to come right back with a 3 of his own, but it's no good.
You've got an established player in front of you. You want his spot, you're gonna have to take it from him.
After repeatedly experimenting with all these new features, I finally went into my NBA eras to check out the new Steph era, which, confusingly enough, begins in 2016, 2 years after the Warriors' first championship and the true beginning of Curry's reign of terror. Or should I say, 3 roar. Get it?
And tonight, we'll see the Golden State Warriors. They'll go up against the San Antonio Spurs.
Although the new Steph era makes the 2010s uncomfortably congested, with the LeBron era taking place in the first half of the decade, it's a commemoration of Steph & Co.'s near unstoppable dynasty that I can fully get behind.
We've heard all the predictions and expectations, but now it's all about show and prove.
Since this is the only new feature in eras, I immediately turned my attention to the return of my GM, which, to my surprise, has almost turned into an RPG. Although the selection of pre-made characters and 6 different backstories are relatively decent, the rest of the mode is patchy and incomplete. Every line of dialogue with its NPCs feels unnatural and forced.
It does.
Thrown together.
These are very, very awkward, very weird. I've done this. It looks about as good as it plays.
Just to serve as a way of handing out in-season tasks. Get this. In my first conversation with the team governor, he immediately asked me to trade away our oldest and best player because of a dream he had. You can probably imagine how disastrous that would be for my franchise. And like that conversation's idle and unrealistic tone, the MyGM building appears equally empty, barely filled with expensive equipment you can't touch, as if it were a bare-bones museum. Instead of mirroring a bustling business hub for a multi-million-dollar NBA team, the weirdly designed single-floor space feels more like an expensive penthouse apartment you share with 4 strangers.
One thing for old 2K is hilarious. Fucking hilarious, dude. I'll be honest. It's not much fucking better.
With the new features in my NBA eras being slightly underwhelming, I was preparing myself for disappointment before diving into my career. Oh, how wrong I was. As soon as I started, I was immediately placed into every Hooper's childhood fantasy.
Yeah. This shit was cool.
The proverbial mountain in a Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
It's overtime in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. My team's in the lead, and after choosing my preferred position, team, and appearance, I got to finish the rest of the match for a chance to make history. Although it's only a short snippet of your player's potential storyline to kick things off, this instant thrust into a high-stakes scenario is the sudden, revitalizing jolt my career needed to contrast last year's disappointment.
And they've done it!
And after finishing the match and spending an hour trying out different builds, I jumped back in to try to make this intro a reality. But first, I had to relive my player's humble beginnings through the new story-centric mode, Heart of a Dynasty. As someone who spent the better part of their teens with the classic My Career experience, you know, the ones from NBA 2K10 through 2K13, playing through Heart of a Dynasty with its 4 story-based matches was a tremendous breath of fresh air. And even though it's short, Finishing every game and watching your player grow through each one is a wonderfully nostalgic experience.
Let me give you some game, man. Here we go.
But ultimately, all my career roads lead to Rome, which, in this case, is the overhauled metropolis called the City. Even though this updated hub lacks the easygoing vibe of last year's Miami beachfront inspired design, I prefer this year's version.
Yeah, man, y'all got a crazy setup in there. Pretty cool, right?
Simply because it's easier to explore and every location feels more accessible. I've already spent countless hours.
I still think they need to just say fuck it and allow you to use menus, because it is not fun to me with how dated the game feels to have like a openish zone like this. Like it's laggy. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel good. So I'd just rather a menu pop up. If you want to run in the city, you can. Just like fighting games, little avatar. Exactly. Like, if I want to do that shit, I can, but give me the option not to do that shit. Because when me and Bunk play, what do? The only thing we do is we hop on, we head to the gym to work out, or we go to the rec to play. Just give me a menu where I have to fucking go to the rec. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Dunes, the sideline, and the temple, beating every street ball boss, earning virtual currency, and collecting the rewards.
Oh, they brought back street ball? That's cool.
It never felt boring or repetitive. In fact, the time I spent bouncing to and from these areas only made me want to explore the city even more.
It's Dillard outside.
Microtransactions.
Even with Heart of a Dynasty and the city finally quenching my basketball RPG thirst, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows in my career land. Frustratingly enough, the plot-based matches in Heart of a Dynasty use your player's current attributes. So if you're starting as a 60 overall brown shirt, you will struggle against
they're gonna say high school?
High school JV team. Even
bro, and that's the worst part. You know when you start an RPG and like you're not one-shotting the fucking slimes and shit, but they're also not fucking you up either. This is a game where it's like the beginning of your journey, you're fucking doing 1 damage to slimes, and slimes are fucking one-shotting you. It's so dog, and it's genuinely the worst thing that 2K does, where it's basically like, if you really want to start the game and play, I have to grind to get to the point where I can play with Bunk. Because literally, if I don't spend money, I could just give them fucking, $130, get the game, get like $50 in currency. But why the fuck should I have to pay $120, $130 to play the game? Not to mention, what if my build's trash? If my build's trash and I can't do shit with it, there's no getting my points back. There's nothing like that. So it's just super dog.
When you're allegedly a 5-star athlete. And
man,
here is when
you're a 5-star athlete, but you can't make layups, you can't fucking shoot, and you can't pass, you can't fucking defend.
Of in-game microtransactions.
And they just have a monopoly on fucking basketball video games. There's no other basketball game that's like 2K, so there's no competition. It fucking sucks.
Rears its ugly, invasive head.
And he's going for the root here. Hammers with alley-oop through.
Like always, the fastest way to raise your player's attributes is to purchase a mountain of virtual currency.
Yeah.
Of course, you can always grind it out by playing through NBA matches and completing quests, but that's painfully slow going.
Yeah.
Even with immediate access to 100,000 VC, which is only available with either the All-Star or Hall of Fame editions of NBA 2K25, as well as going through dozens of shoot-arounds in key games, signing multiple endorsements, and roaming the city, talking to every important NPC I could find, it still wasn't enough to bring my player's overall rating up to 80.
After all fucking that, he couldn't get to level 80, bro.
Naturally, this low of a rating makes it difficult to keep up in online matches.
Because literally, if I hop on right now, I saw like it was day 3, someone was already like a 90. So it's like, what the fuck do you do? If I pull up my 60, I'm getting sent to hell.
Against others who paid for VC.
Exactly.
Then there's my team. the fantasy mode where you can assemble a team of historic NBA stars to compete against other similar squads. Arguably the most infamous microtransaction cesspit of all. But even though the first things that greet you when you start it up are deluxe player packs that cost thousands of VC, I was pleasantly surprised that spending additional cash to upgrade my squad didn't feel necessary at all here. And that's mainly because of the starting tutorials and the auction house, which granted me the decent Damian Lillard-led starting squad that I needed to put up a fight against other teams online.
I wanted to give you something you could look at to remind yourself of how far you come, so you can appreciate the journey.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, and that's never been truer than with NBA 2K25. Although the core gameplay feels familiar, and it most likely always will, a handful of improvements such as go-to moves, rhythm shooting, and shot timing profiles also make it more novel and challenging. I love that the Heart of a Dynasty storyline and the return of Street Ball highlight a renewed focus on single-player experiences that gives me a little bit of hope that things will be even better next year. Don't get me wrong, microtransactions are still as pervasive and frustrating as ever, but spending money doesn't always feel as necessary this time, especially in my team, thanks to the return of the auction house. So, although NBA 2K25 isn't on the level of Michael Jordan's splashy return in 1995, it can at least compare to his late career stint with the Washington Wizards. You know what you're getting at this point, but it still has a few tricks up its sleeve.
That's an honest ass review. So you know what you're getting at this point. Shit. But I'm still gonna give it a 7 because I work for IGN.
That longtime fans like me can be pleasantly surprised by, even as we grumble about long-standing issues.
Exactly.